Hi there, my name's Steve, and you have tuned into and listening to the Go Football podcast. So, this is the podcast where we talk all about grassroots football, whether you are a parent, player, referee, you've got a love for the game, sit tight, you're in the right place. So, on the lineup this week, we'll be talking about overtraining young players. Are we really developing them, or are we asking too much? So, let's not cue the whistle, let's not wait any longer, let's get into it. So, a big welcome back to the Go Football podcast. So, this week, this is one that comes up quite a lot, and there's quite a lot of people talking about this as well. It's like, are we really developing players? Are we asking too much from them, from their sessions, in their weeks, in their months of time? The season's just about to get started again. So, this is why I thought I'd talk about overtraining players. And are we overtraining players? Is there some considerations we maybe need to take from the things that they're doing, and to make a more enjoyable experience for them, and make sure that they don't get injured, and all the rest of it, really? Because, a lot of the time, it sounds like when we talk about overtraining, it sounds like we want to stop children from playing football, and, quite the opposite, really. I mean, training is essential for development of players as well. We want them to get more touches, we want them to get more time on the ball, I don't know what people call it now as well. I used to call it ball rolling time as well. Some people used to call it sugar time with the ball too. So they're the times that we want more ball rolling time, like learning skills, playing games, improving their fitness, and enjoying football. But is there a point when too much football is just too much football? I think there probably is going to be as well. I mean, more football, does that always mean more development? Not always. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But little announcement to do just before we do that as well. For some of you that have been following us on our socials, you also know that Go Football Coaching, we have won an award, and our award was Best New Sports Coaching and Football Provider 2026 at the UK Enterprise Awards as well. So really proud of that. And obviously the Go Football podcast was definitely part of the submission that went in for that, and from all the external adjudicators that were looking at things too. It was definitely all part of that. So big thanks for listening. I mean, if you can drop this link into your WhatsApp groups, the rest of your coaches, that would be absolutely brilliant. But I mean, let's get into the session today, really. I mean, look, if we look at like some young footballers now, and as what their lives really look like, it might look something like, training on a Monday, grassroots training on a Monday. They might have a private coach on a Tuesday. They might do training on a Wednesday of some sort as well. Maybe it's another sport. Maybe they've got school football on a Thursday. And then on Saturday, they might have a grassroots match. And then they might even have, matches on Sundays too. They might play one of those players that plays Saturdays and Sundays. Obviously a couple of tournaments thrown in there as well. And sometimes we'll wonder, like, are we developing, or are we just overloading, children with too much football? Just remembering that they're not little adults, they are children. There's a lot of different things that are going on there as well. I mean, are we overtraining them with there? Is there some warning signs as coaches that we should see, parents that we should see? And, what really, really matters regarding their football experience through the week? I think that sometimes we do see players that they are getting massively overtrained, not just in football, but I think in doing everything else that goes on in their lives, really. Sometimes we're training them like they're professionals because we want them to be professionals and get to those academies and be a Cat 1 Academy player and, get signed and all the rest of it. We want to see that. But something that professional players get is they get professional recovery time as well. And I'm not talking about like just a couple of hours sat on the sofa or something like that. They're getting little things like ice baths. Their nutrition is pretty much set out for them as well. They've got people monitoring them, scans, massages, therapy time. They've got all those different things. So, sometimes more isn't always better. And I know that sometimes that mentality for some people, whether that's coaches, parents, sometimes players as well, can always mean more training must mean more improvement. And look, more training is sometimes good. We've talked about, again, before that 10,000 rule as well, which is 10,000 times doing something before you become good at it. Can take years and years as well. But sometimes we think if one session is good, 2 sessions must be better. 3 sessions is even better than that. And then we go 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato more. And, sometimes that is the case for some people. But if we've got another player that's doing 4 sessions a week, then sometimes people will be thinking, well, if their kid's doing 4 a week, maybe mine needs to do 5 a week so that they're going to be better. They're going to have more options and be a little bit better, and their development's going to go up as well. But, recovery really allows your brain as well as your body to adapt and soak in everything that you are getting. I think without enough recovery, simply adding more stress, not just to your bones, your ligaments, your tendons, everything else that's going on there as well, muscle growth, cardio recovery, and all those different things. But yeah, it can really impact those really. And I think that sometimes we have to remember that the children and teenagers, like I said, they're not miniature adults as well. They're growing. Like I said, their bones, their tissues, their tendons, nervous systems, they're all developing at the same time. So, and sometimes at different times as well. Sometimes you'll get like, I don't know, their bones and their muscles, they're not all growing at the same time as well. So they'll get aches and pains. We call it growing pains. When I was a little bit younger, we were kind of told that they were like shut up pains. Don't keep bringing them to me. You'll be fine kind of pains. But now obviously there's a lot more research done into things and a lot more information out there that you can go and find. But what you might even find as well as coaches, as parents as well, watching your children play. You might get two 13-year-olds the same age, but physically they can be completely different ends. You might get one that's really physically mature, another might be still growing rapidly. I think their training needs to be very different for some players. I don't think there's a golden rule as to everyone needs to do the same thing for everything, and that is right for everyone. So, I mean, like, how much football is too much football? Look, it's been nice weather for us as well. I'm sure some people listening to this podcast now, they'll be listening going, look, when we were younger as well, we were given £1 to go out in the morning as well and told not to come back until it's dark at night. And yeah, you could be on a field playing football, riding your bikes around, running around, probably causing a little bit of mayhem. I'm not saying that was too bad as well, but, the kind of things that we were able to do back in those days, probably not the same as what you can do now. And I think that there isn't a magic number for how much you can train, really. I think that if you think that there's a rule of 4 hours a day is fine for you as well, train 5 and you're overtraining. I don't think it quite works like that. I think the risk is really on the total load that you're doing throughout the week and throughout the day and also other activities. It's not training, matches, school, other sports that children might, or other activities as well. There's a lot of children now, I've noticed at my gym as well, been going into the gym, and there must be 12, 13, 14 that are going in there. But then they have to try and get their sleep in as well, their stress of like just being a teenager, just being a child now, their growth, recovery, they've got to try and get all those things in, haven't they? And sometimes coaches need to look at someone as a whole player, because with some young footballers, they might have 3 football sessions, but then they might also have other things put in there as well. They might have athletics, basketball. Basketball's massive at the moment. Say what sport's really, really popular as well is dodgeball. Every time that's on at one of the schools that we go to, it's always a packed out class. And I'm not sure if that's because they just like, say, throwing things at each other, I'm not sure, or they just want to hurt each other and be able to do that by chucking balls at each other. But they're going to have PE, they might have some school fixtures put in there, after school clubs put in there, busy weekend. Overall, things like friendly match as well, not going to be quite as intense as a normal match either, is it? But intensity definitely matters. A few hours of relaxing or some technical sessions are very, very different to repeated high intensity sprinting that you might do, or some interval training that you might do. Especially with the older age groups, interval training is really popular because it's one of the best ways to get your fitness up really quick. But it doesn't mean that you can do that every single day, multiple times a week, just to get your fitness up and then continue doing that all the way through with all the additional things that are going on. So I don't think it should really just count on just the amount of sessions. I think it needs to look at the things like the intensity, what we're actually doing in those sessions, what they're all about, everything else that's happening. I think they can all help tell you whether or not someone is actually massively overtraining, or whether or not they can continue doing the amount of exercise and the amount of football that they are. I think they make a big difference for someone. And I think that a lot of people always miss that your brain needs recovery too. If you think about overtraining, generally people just think how active you are, how many times you've ran, how many times you've sprinted, how many times you've kicked a ball, how many times you've taken free kicks, or for goalkeepers, how many dives you've made, and those kind of things. Or they kind of start thinking about things like the physical side of it as well. How often would you get injuries, that kind of thing as well. Mental fatigue is massive for young people. And I'm really, again, like a lot of parents will be, we'll have been from an era where social media wasn't that big when you were 12, 13, 14, they weren't going to see those kind of things. It's going to be a complete different world for them. I think school is very stressful now for a lot of young people. Again, used to be very different for us, but now every parent's got like an app where they can track things like homework and all the rest of it. It's very easy to just say, for me, it was easy. Parents used to say, have you done your homework? Yes. If I'd done it or not, they would never know unless they asked me to physically show them. But now you hand it in, teacher ticks it off, alert comes through, you get an email as a parent as well. Children are aware of all those things, but how does sometimes their life looks like going to school? It can go straight to football, straight home, then get into homework, then get into bed. And then it's the next day for them to repeat all of those kind of things or something very, very similar to it. And eventually football for some people can stop enjoying it, really. They can stop having the fun that they were having as well. It becomes more of a bit of an obligation for them. I think we need to be careful of that, because with too much football, if they're doing it 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week, only one day off, maybe they've got 7 days a week. I used to train someone who used to train in 2 different teams, have training sessions with them, used to play Saturdays and Sundays, used to train with one of them on one night, one of them another night. I think they used to train twice with one of them as well, and then used to come to me for a one-to-one session. I think he used to have like one day off in the week, and I think eventually it just got kind of too much, and his dad kind of just said, I think he's doing a bit too much. I think we just need to make sure he's not fatiguing. We want to make sure he can get up in the morning and do all the rest of the things. We're going to drop the one-to-one sessions. I was like, that's fine, it's no problem, just come back when you're ready. And I think that we just need to make sure that if we are putting children into these, are we overtraining them by asking them to go and do too much in these sessions? Not just the intensity, but, sometimes we're asking them to improve, and we're asking them to perform really well in every session as well, be better in every session that they're going to, and really like monitor their development as well. Don't make mistakes when they go into sessions as well, is another thing that you generally see a lot of. I think that some sessions need to be full of mistakes, by the way, but yeah, extra pressure of don't make mistakes, work harder, train again, go and do some more, go and get the ball back quick, go and do this, go and do that. And I think that sometimes as coaches, as parents, we can really accidentally, by the way, as well. So again, not a dig for any coach or any parent or anything like that. We can accidentally remove the enjoyment that our children could be getting out of it. And that's, can be really, really negative. I think for some players, it can be constantly exhausting. Their frustration they could be getting, they could turn up all of a sudden starting to like dread training, asking themselves whether or not we're accidentally helping them or not. Are we doing that or are we not? Again, really, really does depend on how active, how intense, how many times. We look at the intensity, we look at the volume, the amount of days, how hard it is, what they're doing. Is that too much training for them? Have they had enough rest in there too? It's another thing to almost look at. I think there are going to be some warning signs that we can always look at too. So, if we look at what coaches and parents should really be looking for, and also look, if you're a bit of an older player that's listening, maybe you're in the sort of like teens or getting a little bit older, maybe some of these you can also look at as well. But I mean, if you're persistently tired, could that be a sign of overtraining? Yeah, absolutely. Because if we've not got time to rest and recover, then your body's going to be telling you naturally, rest, recover. And that can come in different ways. Tiredness is just one of them too. I mean, like repeated aches and pains, particularly if those aches and pains become more frequent and they're not settling. You're never getting rid of them. You can't do anything to do those things, to get rid of those aches and pains that you are getting. And they're not just normal growth aches and pains that you would be getting. But things like drop in performance as well can be a bit of a strange one as well, can't it? Because sometimes we get drop in performance for a number of different reasons. Maybe that is the growth. Maybe it is something else, like overtraining. Could that be one there too? Like I say, sometimes you might be thinking as well with the the drop in performance, but they're training so much more. So why aren't they getting better? Yeah, it could be a sign of fatigue, sign of overtraining, sign that they're doing too much as well. And obviously mood changes. This again, it's really hard to tell with some teenagers, because all of a sudden they can go from being absolutely normal and the nicest people in the world to like Kevin and Perry. And it can happen overnight. We've all seen that episode where he changes overnight, right? So, that could be another thing. But yeah, losing motivation to go. Maybe they don't want to go training. Maybe they don't want to play matches, or making excuses like they don't feel well, they've got a bad knee, they're hurting, or they just don't feel good, or they feel sick and trying to make other excuses. But I mean, poor sleep can really change the difficulty in recovering too. And they're all signs that we should be looking at as parents, players, and obviously as coaches. And none of them automatically mean that they're overtraining. There can be a lot of explanations for it. A couple of late nights from parties, or moving from mum's house to dad's house, or, like in the summertime, you go to grandparents for some nights whilst parents are working, for how childcare works as well. And, grandparents are like, here's some sweets, here's some sweets. Anything you ask for is going to definitely be a yes. So there's lots of different reasons also, but they're just some of the warning signs that we could also get. Growth spurts, again, particularly important in teenagers. Doesn't mean that players are overtraining. Just means that they might be going through some growth spurts too, and you can definitely see those. Feet change size. We know that they're about to grow generally for a lot of players. But we've got some that look incredibly coordinated, 12-year-olds, and then all of a sudden they get to 13 and they look very awkward on there as well. Their legs might seem too long. The balance seems to change. Might be running patterns might change too, because they just can't work out where they're going or what they're doing as well, and their brain's trying to tell them something else, and their depth perception has changed, and their spatial awareness has changed. Doesn't mean they're getting worse. Doesn't mean that they need more training. Just means that they're going through a body change, really, which we've always been through. But I think that patience can really matter for a lot of young players as well. Definitely say to coaches as well, if you've seen a player that was really good at one age and then they're not good at the next age as well, give them time, be nice and patient with them, because during those periods of rapid growths as well, managing training can be even more important as a coach to get the best out of your players, and also give those players the best chance of developing as a footballer. And if there's nothing that's bigger flex for a coach as well, the biggest flex for a coach is always that, isn't it? It's always how much have they developed, how much have I looked after them as well. Doesn't mean stop playing football, just means that listen to the players, maybe means monitor them a little bit more too. We can communicate. This is one that I would always say is awkward. And I've tried doing this before, and luckily I've always been on the good end of it, really. But when you've got a player that plays for a different team, maybe you're a Sunday team playing and they're a Saturday team playing, and they play in two different teams. Seen it loads of times, try and communicate between coaches, really, like they're going to have a really intense session, or have you got intense sessions worked out this week for so and so, can really help monitor for some of those players that are really doing that and going to different places and training differently. I mean, some will always want to do that. Always ideal if you can keep players in one place, but sometimes it's really beneficial for players to have multiple teams, multiple people to play against, and different coaches to hear different things. Remember, recovery is still part of development. So even if they are training on a Monday, they come to you on a Tuesday and they've had a really hard, tough session. Knowing that just means that you can maybe not change the whole session for everyone. But, if you need a couple of bounce players in there, stick them in as a bounce player as well, so getting the first touches, but not having to be too intense with it. Or if there's a couple of practices that you can do where someone can be a little bit less intense, or there's a player that isn't having to sprint quite as much, then that'd be the great one. I think that communication is obviously really important, not just with with parents and other coaches and things like that as well, but sometimes with the players themselves. What you'll find with a lot of young players is they will not offer you the information that you want without asking for it. A lot of the time when I'm training people, do you all need a drink? Yeah, we all need a drink. Why does none of you say that? I think now pretty good at looking at that, noticing it, and telling them to go and get something. But if a player's exhausted, again, like, they're not necessarily going to give you the answers to what you want to know. Like, are you tired? Are you exhausted? How are you feeling? Did you sleep well? They're not going to hand that information over as like maybe an under 8s, under 9s, under 10s player. Even older players probably not going to give you that information either. You've got to kind of dig a little bit as a coach, sometimes dig a little bit as a parent too, to just ask about those things. What we can always do, though, when we see players getting tired in those sessions, is just have a couple of things, like a couple of technical sessions lined up, maybe a little bit of possession work, some small-sided games that are like fun activities that are not too intense, so that they can keep on training all the way through, but you've changed the game into something a bit more fun, something that they can still continue to do, and that can really help them not to be overtraining again. Because remember, we talk about overtraining. Some of the questions you can always ask if they're not going to feed that information to you is, how are you feeling? How's your body? Are you still enjoying it? Are you tired? Because You're not going to get it without asking for them. I always start my sessions off by always asking like how they are, and always talk about school and stuff like that. Like, how's your summer been? What have we done this week? Who's done something? I mean, I found out that one of our under eights had actually been blackberry picking, went round his neighbours and earned himself a few quid. Like, what 8-year-old does that nowadays? But just by asking some of that information, I got it. But I think that, yes, are some players overtraining? Oh, absolutely, 100% they are. Are we always aware of it? Not always. I think that sometimes we need to work, and some parents are really good. They'll come to coaches and say, oh, I've had a really hard day today. There've been swimming lessons. We've been out. We've done this. We've done that. We've been to the water park or something like that. Or they've been on a sports camp all day or sports camp all week as well. It's good communication as well, and that's some of the pieces of the puzzle that you need to find out if you're going to be overtraining. So look, I don't know if all your players are as well. Tell us what you think. Are we overtraining players? Do you see that in some of your sessions? Maybe not even your child. Maybe you've seen some of the players that you think they're overtraining a little bit, or I think they're overtraining, they're doing too much, because parents and coaches, it's not because they don't care that they want to do it and give extra training and extra sessions and everything to their children. It's probably the opposite. Probably that they care too much, really. But sometimes we're caring too much, trying to give too many opportunities out, and that can really stunt the development. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this one, though. So if you can get hold of us, then do it on all the socials. Go Football Coaching, go Football Podcast. Get us on the TikTok. You can get us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can get us all those. And obviously, you can always email in at gofootballpod@gmail.com. So look, I hope you're all having a nice summer as well. We're in our 5th heat wave of the summer. Now, we're not used to this. I've got that frozen water at the side of me just to try and keep cool. If you can hear a fan in the background, yes, I've had it on constantly through as well, just so I don't look like a tomato as I'm recording. So, but look, until next time as well, let's play, recover, sleep, have fun. Come back fresh for another Go Football podcast next week.
While some squads are stuck in group chats listening to Keith ask when kickoff is,
10:30 or 11.
again, your squad is watching their own live commentary. They're watching themselves leapfrog the starting winger in the Squad Score League after a 3-assist Sunday. They're reading digital progress reports that look like they belong in the hands of a pro scout, but better, probably. Keep them keen and power your players with professional engagement. Look it up, squadgod.app.